Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin mi naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler. I am just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. And maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. The music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants. Those are the Lapa Lapa, Puerto Vallarta's oldest restaurant on the famous Los Muertos Beach, and the El Dorado Restaurant Beach Club right next door. So you can enjoy that fantastic view of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors, or during the day in its grand splendor for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Seated with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week we are going to a more mystical side of Puerto Vallarta. I'm going to introduce you to Kennedy Morgan, and Kennedy is a medium. You know, he communicates with dead people. Anyway, Kennedy has a very interesting story. And if you can stay alive just for a few more minutes, you'll be hearing from him. We have Vallarta news and more, so let's get to it. Let's see what's happening this week in Puerto Vallarta, the 16th of March, 2022. And just breaking, Jalisco to drop most all COVID restrictions. This is from Vallarta en Línea, dated March 16th, 2022. After 2 years, restrictions are over in Jalisco. Clubs at 100%. The governor of Jalisco, Enrique Alfaro Ramirez, reported that the restrictions on businesses due to the pandemic are lifted so that all clubs and bars will be able to hold 100% of their capacity. Likewise, the vaccination certificate or negative PCR test will no longer be required to access, nor will the temperature being taken or the disinfectant mat. The mask will only be used in closed spaces when not eating or drinking or on public transport. At first, it was said that it would not be used in open spaces, although the Ministry of Health determined in its graph that it would. In the end, however, no one will be sanctioned or forced to use it on public roads or at events with open spaces. There will be fairs, concerts, and massive events approved by the Health Board without asking for any document in between. The measures that were approved today are that the economy is going to be reactivated at 100%. The stadiums, the cinemas, the restaurants, the theaters, everything now can work at 100% of its capacity, said the governor. And that's great news for all businesses and, all people in Jalisco, whether they're jabbed or unjabbed, if you ask me. Anyway, I have a link to that article in the show notes from vallartaenlina.com. And thank you very much, Cheap Debbie, for sending that link to me. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm going to stay with you, got you and Ray. Right. Sunday, April 3rd, the time will change in Puerto Vallarta. Now, last Sunday, the clocks sprang forward in the United States. I think they sprang forward in Canada, if I'm not sure. But it looks like the U.S., at least for now, will be on permanent daylight savings time, at least until useless politicians change it back again. And in Mexico, the clocks don't spring forward until Sunday. Like I said, April the 3rd. We'll see if Mexico decides to go, full daylight savings time in response. But who knows? You never know. And with that last report that we talked about, with all of the restrictions falling to the wayside, it looks like Pascua and Semana Santa are full speed ahead. From Noticias PV, this is dated March 15th, 2022. Semana Santa celebrations in Puerto Vallarta. They predict an excellent long weekend. It'll bring together national and foreign visitors, highlights the Director of Tourism, Ludwig Estrada Virgin. As of next Friday, a greater arrival of tourists is expected who will take advantage of the long weekend corresponding to the month of March, for which there are excellent expectations, and in some way it will serve as a thermometer for the holiday period of Holy Week and Easter, said the Director of Tourism and Municipal Economic Development, Ludwig Estrada Virgin. It should be remembered that next Monday, the 21st, is Benito Juarez's birthday, and it is considered a holiday, so that there will be those 3 days off, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. However, since the previous day, there is usually an increase in the flow of visitors. The official recalled that very good results were achieved last February, which even exceeded what was expected. It was very good for the destination because it generated a great economic benefit in general. There were new flights and also 20 cruise ship arrivals. Estrada Virgin added that in the current month of March, 23 cruise ship arrivals are scheduled. A high number of flights with very good occupancy will be maintained, and this bridge will combine both national and international tourism. Many people will travel by plane and others by road to this city, which anticipates that we will have a high hotel occupancy, even with several establishments at 100%. Well, it sounds like they're going to be all at 100%. Anyway, here he pointed out that Vallarta is going through a good time with the economic situation in full recovery, still in a pandemic period, and surely with a massive arrival of tourists, the area of the boardwalk and in general the tourist strip will register intense movement. The Director of Municipal Tourism stressed that the staff under his command is preparing for the occasion and also called on the tourist community of the destination to help visitors have a great experience. In addition, we are already working with a view to the month of April, when it will be the holiday period of Holy Week and Easter, so that we will also have a very good occupation. And I have a link to that article from Noticias PV in the show notes. You can find them at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. The Puerto Vallarta Naval Museum reopened its doors. This is March 9th, 2022, after 2 years of being closed as a preventative measure due to the COVID-19 health contingency. The Naval Museum of Puerto Vallarta has reopened its doors, giving residents and tourists the opportunity to discover Mexico's rich maritime history and culture. This colonial-style building, located next to Los Arcos Amphitheater on the Malecon, was formerly the Port Authority Office, the Naval Hospital, and later the Navy headquarters. Since the museum's opening in 2006, it has devoted itself to educating visitors on Mexico's naval history, which can be traced back to pre-Hispanic times. With 5 exhibition rooms, the Naval History Museum houses permanent collections of naval uniforms, photos, paintings, maps, charts, and navigation instruments. It offers scale models of forts, scale replicas of both historic and modern vessels, and topographic scale models of the Mexican Republic and several of its ports. The museum also features a number of audiovisual exhibitions and a unique 5-screen navigation simulator that allows would-be sailors to pilot a large ship through different conditions and environments. There's also an area coordinated with the Puerto Vallarta Department of Art and Culture that's used for temporary exhibits by renowned local, national, and international artists. Exploring the museum doesn't take much more than an hour, but there's also a small gift shop on the street level that features a coffee shop where visitors can relax, grab a bite to eat, and enjoy wireless internet service in air-conditioned comfort or on the outdoor patio. The next time you are visiting Puerto Vallarta, you will want to make sure that you visit the Naval Museum. It is an amazing historical experience that you and your family are sure to enjoy. The Museo Histórico Naval de Puerto Vallarta is open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. A nominal admission fee is charged. And I have a link to that article from the Banderas News. You can find them in the show notes. And I also put some pictures that I took of the Naval Museum that when I toured it with you a few years ago. You got to go if you haven't been there. They've got this just great display of military artifacts and those models. Everything that was just in that story is absolutely true. You got to get there and you got to see it. And it's right there. It's right next to the amphitheater over on the Malecon. I have their contact information in the show notes as well as a map that will take you right to the front door. So trash is being collected differently in certain parts of Puerto Vallarta. It's a new pilot program called the Ring the Bell program, and it's a new trash collecting method being tested in some of Puerto Vallarta's colonias or neighborhoods. And this is from noticiaspv.com. The Ringing for Garbage collection already covers 7 neighborhoods. The program has been well received among the inhabitants of Puerto Vallarta. The Director of Municipal Public Services of the City of Puerto Vallarta, Jose Ascension Gil Calleja, reported that a month after the awareness campaign began to have a clean city, the campaign's actions have been accepted among the inhabitants of the neighbors of our city. For this reason, 3 other colonias were increased to the 4, which the dependency began last February 14th. Gil Calleja pointed out that in most of the neighborhoods where the ringing program was implemented, it was well received. We can say that the acceptance of Vallartans has been very good. Right now, there are 7 neighborhoods in which we carry out the ringing. There are some people who they don't like the ringing because of the noise issue, but it is understood that the action of the municipality is so that the garbage is taken out when the garbage truck passes, he said. The head of public services highlighted that the importance of citizen participation achieving a clean port requires broad support and that everybody participates. That's why we work hand in hand with businessmen and citizens in general for this. We ask for the support of citizens to help us, that when they hear the bell, they take out their garbage to prevent it from being exposed on the street for so long, and people who are dedicated to scavenging make us dumps. Also, the exposure of garbage is bad image and can affect health, he commented. Finally, Gil Calleja announced that the program could grow to other parts of Puerto Vallarta. We have been checking other neighborhoods. We want to implement it in a general way throughout the municipality. But in some neighborhoods, we are prevented, as they are night collection schedules, and most that can be implemented, we will do it. As will be remembered through the Ring the Bell system, municipal public service personnel ring the bell a half hour before the collection truck passes to allow people to take out their garbage on time, thus preventing harmful fauna from destroying the bags. The routes that already have bells are Floresta, Los Llanitos, Emiliano Zapata Zona Romantica, and Ixtapas Centro in the morning shift, and Bobadilla, Loma Bonita, and Guapanole in the night shift. And I have a link to that article from noticiaspv.com in the show notes. In case you're wondering how many colonias there are in Puerto Vallarta, the answer is there are just over 100 colonias in Puerto Vallarta. I find this kind of funny, a little bit interesting. I could just see them ringing the bell. Bring out your garbage, instead of bring out your dead. Never mind. Bring out your garbage. I don't know. I mean, how does that work for somebody who's not home when they ring the bell? I don't get it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. A fire broke out last Wednesday over at the El Salado, at the estuary near the airport and the marine terminal. Authorities suggested that the fire was set intentionally, and firefighters decided just to let that blaze burn itself out rather than, I don't know, traipsing through crocodile-infested and snake-infested jungle in order to get to the blaze. And eventually the blaze did burn itself out. It was in the middle of a swamp, by the way, so 3.5 hectares were burned. They used drones to inspect the area, and it was determined that there was no impact on the fauna, so they found no dead iguanas or other dead animals in the area. One of Vallarta's most colorful characters passed away last week. If you know who he is, his name is Bambino. That was his nickname. His real name was Juan Antonio. He was a little guy who had a whistle, and he would help you cross the street over in the romantic zone of Puerto Vallarta. He'd greet you with like maybe a little fist bump and a loud hello or good morning or how are you? Anyway, I really love the guy, and I'm really kind of sorry that I never stuck a microphone in his face. So we will miss you, Bambino. Rest in peace, amigo. All right, on that note, maybe we should get to our guest, the medium. What do you say? I first heard of Kennedy Morgan from a listener. Thank you very much to all you listeners out there that send me information and send me suggestions. And then a realtor friend of mine, Julie Guerrero, she asked me if I had ever met Kennedy. And I told her no, but then just like magic, a post of his actually skipped across my Facebook feed, and I figured someone was trying to tell me something. Was this a coincidence? I don't think so. So I asked Julie if she would help me with the introductions, which she did, and just like that, Kennedy was on my calendar. Now, I don't know if you believe in mere mortals actually interacting with the dearly departed or not, but Morgan does make a pretty good argument as to why some people have a particular skill set that gives them certain abilities. So, hey, let's just get into the spirit of things and let's cross on over to a different dimension. And it's time to have a little fun here on the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show and discover a different, more mystical side of paradise and meet Kennedy Morgan, medium, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. All right. Kennedy, thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what was your path to Puerto Vallarta?
Well, excuse me. I was born in Vietnam, and right about the age of 4, we moved to the U.S. or migrated to the U.S. And then I grew up in Seattle. At about age 24, I moved to Los Angeles, where I spent most of my adult years. And then when I turned like 45, 46, that's when I moved to Puerto Vallarta. So yeah.
You've been here for...
roughly 4 years. I'm on my 4th year right now.
On your 4th year.
Yeah.
What were you doing in L.A.?
When I got to L.A., I was probably 25 years old. 25 years old. And I initially worked for the Screen Actors Guild because I had some experience with contracts and things like that in the entertainment industry. Got some experience there. I ended up, I don't know how I made the transition, but I ended up like working for an IT company and worked in computer science for a little bit, did some project management work. And then after that, I thought, I want to do something different. So I thought, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I'm going to do something for myself and just kind of sort of go on my own. So around 29, 30, somewhere around there, I went into real estate. So, yeah. And that's what I did in California for a good 8 years, 9 years, somewhere around there. And then things started to happen in my life that kind of sort of took me in a different direction. And then from there, I ended up moving to Puerto Vallarta. So,
now, Kennedy, you have a gift, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, what's
I think most people call it a gift. I call it an ability or a talent. I think that, when you call it a gift, it denotes that I'm better than you, or that I've been, somehow worthwhile to the point where some divine thing gives me this gift that makes me spectacular. So I kind of sort of shied away from the word gift. It's more just, it's like singing, right? Everybody can sing to some degree. It's just some people sing better than others, and they're born with the vocal cords, that allows them to be great stars. And so this ability is kind of sort of the same thing, and that's why I say it's a talent, because it really is that muscle that you guys you build and you strengthen, and then over time it just gets stronger.
So when did you start doing that?
Professionally, it wasn't until maybe 7 or 8 years ago. But I knew I had something, I just didn't know what it was. In hindsight, when I look back at my life, I remember, even when we moved from Vietnam to the U.S., and I grew up in Seattle. We were staying in the government housing projects at the time because my family wasn't, we didn't have anything to my aunt didn't have any skill sets to actually, make money. So we were living in the government housing projects, and it was by the cemetery. And I remember every single night I'd see this young girl sitting in the corner of my room. And I would tell my aunt, and she would, of course, parents always say your imagination, or you're dreaming, or it's not real, you're making things up. So that's just kind of sort of what I stuck with. And throughout my life, I've had those similar or same experiences, not knowing that it was anything bigger than that. And when you grow up and you're talking with your friends, and you kind of sort of say, hey, I've had this experience, and they also talk about their experience as well. So you don't really think that you're out of the norm. You just kind of go, okay, well, other people experience it too, so I guess this is how it is, right? So I grew up thinking that, and then it wasn't until about maybe my 31 years old, when I had actually met my real family for the first time in Australia.
Really?
Yeah, it's a long story. But.
Wow, yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that
exactly.
one day, Kenny.
So, but I met my real family for the first time, and that allowed me to really have a shift in my own perspective about myself and who I was as a person. And that's when things started to kind of sort of unfold for me in the way that, doing the work that I'm doing today as a medium. So, and it wasn't like a quick thing. It was a progress, or it progressed. In some areas, it progressed pretty fast. In others, I had to kind of sort of sit back and wait and develop and learn and strengthen and practice. So, and it wasn't until maybe about 7 or 8 years ago is when I actually started doing it professionally. So, but before then, I would give little mini readings to friends and families, or if I was comfortable with that person, I would be able to say something, but I would never have private sessions or be in a public demonstration where I'm giving readings to a whole audience or something like that. So I would never, and to be honest with you, I never thought I would even do this. So yeah. I a different lifetime, basically. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, do you perform in front of large audiences?
I do. They're called demonstrations, and so
Okay, so it's not performed. Do you do demonstrations?
Yeah, perform demonstrations. It's all I mean, it's. I don't really mind, but I do perform in front of larger audiences, and that's the fun part. Yeah. Now I love doing demonstrations, so cool. A little bit more so than I do private readings.
Really, really, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not because I don't like one. I like one more than the other. It's more because I can reach a larger audience with the demonstration versus one at a time private readings.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. So when you say readings, what are you doing? Are you doing tarot cards? What are you doing?
No. So what I do, it's kind of a process that I've kind of have created. I've never had any training in this, so it's been just exploration exploration and trial and error and discovery and whatnot, and just learning and by reading about what other people do as well. So, and picking up little tidbits of information here and there that I could use in order to develop myself. So, in a reading, what happens is people will come and they'll sit in the chair, and then what I do is I have this spiel that I have, which is I like to demystify what I do, because I think people think that it's just so out there or so spiritual or whatever. But in actuality, we all have this ability, much like singing, right?
Sure.
And so to some degree, I just happen to have it as a higher degree than others. So, I can communicate with those who've crossed over. So I always demystify what I do. And in that process, I ground myself and I raise my energy. And then I start calling in or opening up that door for the spirit world to come forward. And I have no idea who's going to come forward. So it could be your mother, your great aunt, it could be your sister, your brother, or that, one friend that you hated in your entire life, or that really irritated you. Yeah. They might come through. And then from there, what they do is they show me signs, symbols, impressions, and images. They use my own life reference as a way to help me understand what they're trying to say. So it's not like they're speaking in my ear, although from your perspective, per se, it looks like that. In my head, when I'm playing the psychic charades game, I'm connecting the dots and putting things together and interpreting things in an instant. And so it doesn't take me too much time to actually understand what they're trying to say. But from your perspective, I'm just regurgitating what they're saying in my ear. That's what it looks like to you, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not that at all. It's all mental. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you said sometimes someone not really close to you will come back and like irritate you, or
yeah.
I mean,
someone in life like your great aunt or your grandmother who you never liked.
Yeah. So they just come in and just, what are they? Just antagonists? What are they?
Yeah. No. When we cross over, we retain our personalities, but I call it the Earth School's perspective changes, and so we approach things from a more objective point of view or more compassionate point of view from the other side. And when people come through, it's more about. Usually it's about relieving the grief or relieving any sort of burdens or perspectives that might stop you from living a life that's more full or happy or more contentment or just I call it living a life by design versus like just living. Yeah. So, and when spirit comes through, that's what they do is they try to help you understand that those things and those blockages or those memories that you might have had that would have like held you back from living that type of life, they want you to release that. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So they're not coming to kick you. They're coming to give you some relief.
No, I haven't had anyone come through that would say, hey, I hated you in life and I'm hating you now. It doesn't work that way. So,
yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So.
All right. So these are seances, yes or no?
If you want to put it that way, actually they are. Because any time when you are invoking spirit or communicating with spirit, that is technically a seance, yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, and a demonstration, just so you know, is... So mediumship has roots that are grounded in the spiritualist church or the spiritualist movement, right? And so it's typically the medium that actually is the head of the church or runs the seminars or what do you call them, the service, okay? And so as a medium, I would be the one who's communicating with those who crossed over and giving messages to the church, okay? So a demonstration we call it demonstration because it's not associated with the spiritualist church, but in the spiritualist church, they call it platform readings. Mm-hmm. Okay. But it's really the same thing. So when you're going to demonstration, quote unquote, you're kind of going to a spiritualist church event. So
an event. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I don't associate myself with the spiritualist church. So, yeah.
You got to give and take.
Yeah, you got to exactly. So, and nothing wrong with religion at all. But I just don't associate myself because I have a different perspective from things. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine you would. Having this ability, this I'm not
Talent.
going to say gift.
Yeah. You can say gift.
All right, so give me now. Do you do my vision, and I think a lot of people's vision of a séance would be a Ouija board in the middle of a table and a bunch of people sitting around the Ouija board, and the lights dimmed or candles burning, and the medium with his hands on or her hands on the Ouija thing, majigger. What's going on there? I mean, are anything like that happening in your place?
Not really, no, and yes at the same time. So, the misconception of a séance is that it's dark and gloomy and mystical or like scary, maybe even creepy. Séances are not meant to necessarily be that way. That's all TV stuff, right?
Okay.
So, in any type of demonstration, séance, private sessions, things like that, it's really important to raise the vibration or your emotional set point. Okay, and so in the séance, what we do is we do like a meditation, just like any normal meditation, and then we tell jokes, we sing, sometimes we dance, and we get our energy and raise our emotional set points up where we're having fun and we're laughing and we're enjoying the moment, enjoying the time being with the group. Right?
Okay.
Then after that, then we start into how I do and conduct our séance is that we then start to enforce our knowledge or our perspective is that energy can be channeled pretty easily. So we do these exercises that help us to get past that roadblock. One of the exercises that I like to do is what's called the chair lift. Okay, and so you have one person in the chair, you have 5 people with their fingers underneath specific points in the body, and what we do is we lift that person. At the beginning, when I'm facilitating that process, they can't lift the person, and for them it's impossible. But then what I do is I have them go through a ceremonial thing, which is basically just an anchoring process. And in that anchoring process, I change their thought process from impossible to possible. And then afterwards, we do the same process again, and they find that they can lift that person like 4 or 5 feet into the air. It's pretty cool when it happens.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool when it happens. From there, once we understand that energy is channeled pretty easily, then we go on to my spirit table. It's called table tipping, and it's actually a mediumship practice as well to enhance our connection with the spirit world and with spirit. And what we do is we put our fingertips on the table, just lightly. It's not heavy, a heavy touch or heavy pressure, but lightly on the table. And then as we start to invoke spirit and they start to come in to work with us, then the table starts to move around the room. And I have a video of that if you want to see it later on. But the table starts to spin in a vortex type of motion, and it goes so fast you're literally chasing the table around the room, in circles. And at one point the table flipped into the air, like 2 feet into the air. It's suspended for a second and then dropped. So whoa. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, but it's pretty cool. And really, people always ask me, Kennedy, why do you do that? And I just say, well, it's not about a game, or it's not about playing. It's really about enforcing our connection with the spirit world to enhance those moments when we are giving a private reading, when we are doing demonstrations, things like that. So the stronger your connection with the spirit world, the clearer the information comes through.
I see.
So,
I see. Mm-hmm. All right. What other thing? What about palm reading? What's with palm reading?
Oh, I know nothing about palm reading.
Okay, I just don't know. I figured,
I just know that there's lines on the palms that kind of tell you there's certain things. That's really about it.
All right, yeah. Or they're out on the trees over there with coconuts on them.
Exactly.
Right. All right, let's go out into town. This is the bonus round. This is one that everybody loves eating. We all travel on our stomachs, and so I ask everybody what their favorite places are to eat. So if you were going to give me some ideas of maybe your favorite breakfast, lunch, and dinner places. So for breakfast, for example, do you eat breakfast? Because half the people that I ask, they say, no, I don't.
Oh, I actually don't eat breakfast that much.
You see? I knew it. See, but I have premonitions too.
But if I had to go to breakfast, There's some cute little places. I like little places that are different, like Mi Cafe. It's a little bit different, and I also like little hole in the wall cafes. And so I would say Mi Cafe is one of my favorite places to go. Although because I don't go out to breakfast that much,
Right.
I don't get out there that much.
Yeah.
So
All right.
for lunch, there's this little. It depends on what my mood is, but and because my day is kind of sort of fast and I live by a schedule, I tend to do the fast food thing for lunch. So there's this little Chinese place right around the corner here. It's called Comida China.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of sort of where I get my Chinese food.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's not gourmet like
No,
but
I
it's
walk
like
past
fast
it all the
food.
time.
Yeah.
Is it decent?
Yeah, it's pretty decent. It's
because
yeah.
you're still alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's pretty decent. It's not bad. It's kind of again a hole in the wall place. It's not
Right.
fancy or anything like that, but that's where I go sometimes to get lunch. And then there's another smaller Mexican place, and it's called I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Dianita or
Dianitas. Yeah.
Dianitas, yes,
Yeah.
which is one of my affordable favorite Mexican places to eat. So, and they've got this grilled chicken with vegetables and frijoles and like the rice, the Mexican rice. Because
die
it's
for,
yes.
yeah.
Well,
Well, not-
it's just healthy.
Yeah.
Like I always want it because there's not a lot of healthy choices here.
Yeah, you're
so,
telling
but
me.
you can find them in different little stores here and there. So you just got to know where to go. There's this other place over here I think it's El Pasillo Badillo. It's called Sopa. I don't know if you've ever been there,
I have not been to Sopa,
it's like
no.
another hole in the wall place. Such great soup. Oh my gosh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've got sandwiches and salads there too. But and again, it's not a lot. It's not a big, huge menu. But
Right.
they've got amazing like chicken soup.
Oh, dude, I gotta check that
tortilla
out.
soup and
Is
all
that
that
new?
stuff. No, it's been there. Well, I don't know how new it is, but it's been there since I've been here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
What's wrong with me?
yeah.
Go over there.
Yeah. So and it's again affordable. So
Excellent.
Um,
Any other like hole in the wall places that you'd walk into and you'd never and were just totally surprised?
There are so many, but I just don't remember their names.
It's the one over there on the corner.
Yeah, it's
right
exactly.
Right next to the OXXO.
Exactly.
What about like if you were going to go out for a good steak? Where would you go for a good steak?
Oh gosh, La Baca.
Yeah, you like La Vaca Argentina?
Yeah, it's
huh?
kind of it's like right across from the mall La Isla. So La Baca. I just went to what is that restaurant? It's an Italian restaurant up in Cinco Diciembre. So that's one of my my favorite. It's my new favorite Italian place to go to. Plus, it's a great date place. Have you been there?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
I've
it's
had
a great
couple meet and greets up there.
Yeah, it's a great date place to go to because you get the view of the entire bay, and then you get the breeze. That night it was a very cool breeze, and it was just perfect.
Yeah,
So,
and it's
yeah.
a great unobstructed view. It's
Yes.
really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you were going to go for seafood, where would you go for something out of this world?
well, my favorite shrimp dish was from No Way Jose, which I'm hoping OK Jose still has it, but it's like this garlic shrimp on rice. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite. So,
Okay.
and they have other stuff there too, I think. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite shrimp dishes that I've had here in Puerto Vallarta.
But how about like strict Mexican food, like a traditional Mexican food?
Traditional Mexican food. Forget the name of the place. I want to say Soras or something like that. Or, but again, hole in the wall place. It's more long, but in terms of its layout, but traditional Mexican food. Yes,
Excellent.
and
Excellent.
also affordable.
Yeah,
So-
well, I guess the Dianitas would also be one of those
Yes,
traditional
mhm.
Mexican food. Being
yeah, but they're a little bit different. There's two different styles.
they
there,
are.
So
okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right. Cool. If you were going to take a day off
Mm-hmm.
and come back, same day, where would you go? Day trip.
Yeah.
Wherever we go.
Yeah, I would probably go to Sayulita as a day trip, just to go out there. I was out there just maybe about a month ago, and I had a different notion because I was listening. This was my first time there, by the way. I had
Oh,
a different
really? Wow.
notion because people were telling me about how great it was in Sayulita, but I had a totally different experience there, and I liked it because it was smaller. There's still a lot of people, but it was smaller. And there was the restaurants that were great too, I think. So, different stuff there that you can get. So
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and as a matter of fact, I got these 2 bull skulls
I saw
from
that.
there. Yeah. So, off of the street vendors. So
Really?
yeah.
They've been all bought up here, I guess. And,
Yeah. So, they're more expensive too up here. So, but in Sayulita, I think I got them for a song, but it was, I had 2 street vendors trying to get my attention, and it was this little kid that was in the corner, and he was just by himself with the 2 bull skulls. And I thought, okay, who am I going to give my money to? The street vendor who's got his own business, or this little kid who's trying to make a living? So
Yeah.
I bought it from the little kid. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All right, Sayulita for a day trip. How about for 3 days? If you had 3 days off, where would you go?
If I had 3 days off, I'd probably go to Guadalajara.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you do when you go to Guadalajara? First of all, how will you get there? You got a car?
In the past, when I went there, I just rent a car.
Okay.
We just rent a car and we just go. So, and I usually will go with somebody. I won't go by myself. But it's just because it's city, and I like the city.
Yeah.
I like Puerto Vallarta. Don't get me wrong, but I have since learned after moving here that I'm really a city person. So,
right. Well, my wife would tell you that Puerto Vallarta is a city. She'd say, you're just a city boy. You want to go live there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do.
Yeah. So, and Puerto Vallarta is a city. It's just a different type of city.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have the skyscrapers.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and
the hustle and bustle of
history, a lot
things.
of history. And,
Yeah. So, but if you were to ask me what my favorite place so far in Mexico has been, is Mexico City. So,
Yeah.
Mexico City. I know that everybody has different perspectives of Mexico cities, and I get that. But I was really impressed with the architecture and just the culture and the history. My God, it was just amazing when I went there. So, and you really feel like you're not in Mexico anymore. You feel like you're in Spain in some areas.
Absolutely. And it's
So,
a very clean city when you're in the
main
the
part
main
of
part.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's beautiful. You're right.
Beautiful.
Well,
And
what's your favorite part of?
And the
of
food was
Mexico City?
beautiful. What I got a chance in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
I got a chance to go see the cathedral. And again, I'm not a church person, and I'm not too fond of like all the trinkets in the church. However, the architecture, just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. So.
If you had a word of advice for a first-time visitor to Puerto Vallarta, what would that be?
I guess let me say, looking back to see what maybe some of the things that I experienced when I first moved here. I think it's just the architectural shock, not the culture shock, the architectural shock, right? And so I think that was, for me, it was something that I had to get used to, because when you come from the U.S., everything's newer, everything's more modern, things like that. But when you come down here, things are a little bit more unfinished, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So, because when you're here, sometimes you see buildings that are great, and there's like unfinished parts of the building, right? So you have that, and that took me some time to get used to the architecture, and how people leave things unfinished a little bit. So, but other than that, that would be the only thing that I think I had to get used to. So,
yeah.
Besides the culture, but that's a given.
That
right?
is a given,
Yeah.
sure, wherever you're going to be.
Yeah.
What about like a word of warning? Will you have any words of warning for a first-time traveler? Or it doesn't have to be a first-time traveler. It could be just somebody who's been living here for years.
I don't know if it's a word of warning, but I do see a lot of travelers coming here and not realizing that they're in a different country, because it seems very westernized or very U.S. based, and there is a lot of people here that speak English, things like that, But just I think there's a level of respect that when you go to another country, where it's important to demonstrate and to have, especially with those people who've lived here and the workers and things like that. So I think it's important to have that perspective that even though it's just a hop and a skip away from the U.S. or from Canada or from any other parts of the areas around Mexico, I think we have to remember that it's not our culture, it's not our country.
Yeah.
And we're here by the grace of the government, right?
Right.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you had somebody visiting you,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe just getting off the boat, let's say, and they were just coming for the day, and you didn't have time, right? You had stuff to do, but you were going to take them to like the one place in this town that would most represent Puerto Vallarta. Mm-hmm. Where would you take them?
I think the first place I would take them is, and if they were the type of people that would appreciate it, is the botanical gardens. Not that it represents Puerto Vallarta, but I think it represents a side of Puerto Vallarta that is more calming. Because when you've been to the gardens, yes,
oh yes,
Bob,
sure, yeah.
Bob Price. I just think it's a beautiful place, and what he's done with that place, and how it's progressed, and all the passion that he's put into that. I think it's just incredible. So
it is amazing.
And even though it doesn't represent Puerto Vallarta, I think it represents a part of Puerto Vallarta that people don't normally see when they come here.
That's right.
Because they usually spend time in the city, or they spend time in the clubs, or they spend time at the hotels and the restaurants, things like that. Sometimes people don't get a chance to get out,
Right.
So I think, if someone came down here and I didn't have that much time, I would put them in an Uber and send them to the gardens.
Send them to the gardens.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
And, because the way they actually get to see Miss Maloya and Boca de Tomatlan
yes.
and Rio Jorcones
yes.
and the whole 9 yards.
By the way, Boca Tomatlan, have you heard of ley lines?
Yes, I have. You want to talk about ley lines?
Let's talk about ley lines for a second.
Let's talk about ley lines.
So there's a ley line in Boca Tomatlan. It's about 80 kilometers inland, right? Mm-hmm. And it's one of the major vortexes where all the ley lines meet here. So a lot of people, when they come to Puerto Vallarta, they think, why do I love this place so much? I've traveled, around the world. So, and I've been to beautiful, beautiful places, right? And although Puerto Vallarta is beautiful, it's not the most beautiful place, at least not from my perspective, right? Still, there is an energy here that is palpable, and it draws people to Puerto Vallarta. And everybody comes and says, and I'm pretty sure you hear this story quite a bit, where people come for a weekend and they stay for a lifetime.
That's
right?
exactly right.
Yeah.
I get that story every day.
Yeah. And so, but they don't know why. And the ley line, or the energy of the ley line, is why, because it draws people to Puerto Vallarta. And because it's such a major vortex, it affects the entire bay. And as you get further and further away, the pull of that energy is less and less.
So that's right there at Boca. Huh? That's where all the ley lines collide.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And by the way, I did like 4 or 5 months of research on this, so that's how I know that. So
okay.
It was difficult finding the information because I did have to dig deep.
I've looked for the information too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad you found it, but it's I've had other listeners say, talk about ley lines, Barry. And
okay.
And I'm Googling.
Well, I have a blog. If you go to my website, KennedyMorganMedium.com, and go to the blog section, I have a blog that lists all the links I discovered to learn about the ley lines here.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll have that linked in the show notes too.
Sure.
But of course, you can go to
KennedyMorganMedium.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving me all that work.
Sure.
so happy.
Well, someone else had done a blog on it too, and I was trying to do some research on that particular blog, but I couldn't find any information to support it. Mm-hmm. So then I reached out to this person and never got a response. So then I thought, okay, I'm just going to go on my own then and do my own research. But it took me a while to do it. Yeah. And interestingly enough, the group of people that I researched and talked with, they developed this overlay that you can download on Google Earth. And that overlay then shows you where all the ley lines are in the world. Uh-huh. And you'll see all the ley lines crisscross in Boca Tomatlan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So go look at that, you guys, if you want to get laid. I mean, no, that's not right. No, if you want to get laid, that's not right. Ley line, never mind. Kennedy Morgan, it's been a pleasure meeting you. It's been a great talk, and I'm sure that my listeners are really going to appreciate this.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for taking the time out to do this today. So, yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Kennedy. Thanks very much. I have links to Kennedy's blog. Of course, you can find it, like you said, at KennedyMorganMedium.com, right there in the show notes. And when we were sitting and talking before the interview, Kennedy was telling me that when he got to Puerto Vallarta, that he felt a little lonely. He felt a little, isolated. And he actually took some proactive steps to reach out to other like-minded people in Puerto Vallarta, hoping to find his tribe. And it's interesting how many of our tribe members intersect. Anyway, you're going to be hearing about some of them actually in the coming months. And you can find Kennedy, as well as some of his tribe, over at a place called Unkulu Botanical Medicine and Spa, and it's in Versailles. It's a metaphysical store. It offers products that range from plant medicine to different types of crystals and everything in between. They offer services that include ayahuasca ceremonies, massage therapy, Reiki, crystals and sound healing, tarot and psychic readings, and energy clearing. And I have contact information for Unkulu Botanical Medicine and Spa in the show notes. Also, coming up on March the 30th over at Bonito Kitchen, over at the new Bonito Kitchen in the Romantic Zone, Kennedy is having an interesting event. Here is the announcement. I'll read it to you. So excited to have my first demonstration of 2022. It's going to be a fun evening with a bit of romantic twist. Join me and guest medium Vicky Cartwright as we channel spirit in the hopes of making romantic connections between singles in the audience. For the couples who attend, we'll set the intention to have spirit validate choices and decisions you and your loved ones might be making as you move forward in life. This is the first time ever trying this format, so it's going to be an interesting evening filled with romance, laughter, heartwarming, and inspirational messages with a lot of love. You never know who spirit might nudge you to connect with during the evening or what spirit might have in store for you. This is a private event held out on the patio of the new Bonito Kitchen and Bar in the Romantic Zone. Space is limited, so get your tickets today. And I have a link to the PayPal account for the tickets. It says tickets will also be available for sale over at Bonito Kitchen, as well as at Cassandra Shaw Jewelry. And there you have it. So I have a link, and of course you can get those tickets, like you said, over at Bonito Kitchen, over at Cassandra's place over on Basilio Badillo. Sounds like a lot of fun, and sounds, if you're single, get on over there, check it out. All right, well, that should do it for today. Next week, stay tuned for more on the ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips, great restaurant excursion ideas, and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and your suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, well, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com. That's JR's website. Get out there and reserve your tour right through him, right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition. His experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you would do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you were going to use someone else, so do it, really. And when you take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And don't forget, JR's got his maps, his DIY tours, his revitalized happy hour board, and more. And I have links to all of those right in the show notes. Once again, if you like this podcast, please take the time and subscribe or follow wherever you happen to listen to this podcast. Better yet, share it with a friend. Might even turn out to love Puerto Vallarta just as much as you. That way we can get more and more people to discover the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with each episode I create. And if you haven't been to my website, you really need to have a look there. Seriously, I have links to the places we talk about, interesting pictures and more, right there in my blog posts and in the show notes for each episode of the show. So check them out for sure if you haven't already. All right? Okay. Thank you, Kennedy Morgan, medium in Puerto Vallarta. Catch one of his demonstrations or schedule for a party or a private session. I have all his contact information in the show notes. You can find him over at kennedymorganmedium.com or in the show notes at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. And thanks to all of you for listening all the way through these episodes of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. Solo camino interno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, brillas Puerto Vallarta.